and welcome to New Consciousness Review Radio. I'm Miriam Knight, and my guest today is Carmen Harra, an internationally known intuitive psychologist, author, relationship coach, spiritual teacher, and karmic counselor. She was born in Transylvania, Romania, and her gift of otherworldly sight became apparent from a very young age. She had had a near-death experience from drowning. She was a popular singer in Europe and first came to America on a singing contract, but she knew she was meant to stay in America forever. In America, Carmen reinvented herself, earning a Ph.D. in clinical psychology, and she blends these skills with her gifts as an intuitive counselor. During her career, she has met and coached top personalities in the fields of politics and entertainment. Carmen's first book, Everyday Karma, was translated into over 20 languages. Her 5 other critically acclaimed books include Decoding Your Destiny, Signs, Symbols and Secrets, The Trinity of Health, The 11 Eternal Principles, and Holiness. She's a frequent guest on network television and in the national press, and Carmen hosts a radio show called Miracle Guidance for Everyday Life on WABC 770 AM on Sundays at 10 p.m. Eastern. She is joining us today to talk about her 7th book that was written with her daughter, Alexandra. It's called The Karma Queen's Guide to Relationships. Welcome, Carmen. I'm so delighted that you could join us.
Oh, I'm so grateful, dear Miriam, to be part of your amazing show and to have the opportunity to talk to you and to your audience.
Well, thank you. Now, you are known as the Karma Queen, and I think there are so many different understandings of the word karma. Can you tell us in what sense you are using the word and what it means?
Well, first of all, I want to tell you that the Karma Queens, it's a title that was given to me by New York Times and New York Post, based on the fact that my first book was called Everyday Karma. And the idea of being a karma queen is mastering the concept of karma so that your life is smooth and harmonious and moving in the right direction. In other words, you create that good and positive karma, and again, you take control of your life. And to answer the question in itself is that karma is not what people think. It's some kind of it's not the Newtonian law of force of effect. It's some kind of an energy that exists within ourselves in terms of action, thoughts, intention that manifest in the real world and translate later on into our memory that we store in the subconscious mind. So karma is something that repeats itself. And we are born from a drop of memory, and everything that happens to us and everything that we do to ourselves and others and everything that has been done to us is stored in the memory of the soul and at the cellular level. And it's very important that you create that positive action and that positive intention so that your life is moving and growing and evolving. Because if you create a negative karma, then you create blockages into your life, and many times it happens you're not even aware of your thoughts and your behavior and action and the way you look at the world. And one day you simply realize you're not moving forward and you are stuck in a pattern of negative behavior. So we used to say sometimes that karma can stem from prior experiences or even prior lives, which is very true. Because if you think of karma as something that becomes your memory that goes dormant, and one day that drop of memory wakes up and is manifesting again into your life, we are able to explain why we actually keep on attracting in our life the same situation. And if that karmic pattern of behavior is negative, we will keep on attracting the same negative situation over and over. So the idea of the becoming a karma queen is erasing that negative karma and being, a queen of the idea and of the concept. And I think that we all can do that if we understand the philosophy behind the concept of karma. And by the way, karma is the number one law of spirituality. It's the foundation of all the universal laws and the human laws. And sometimes, in the past we were fascinating about the law of attraction. Well, the law of attraction doesn't function if you don't understand the foundation of laws, which is the law of karma. So the law of attracting things into your life relies actually on your own action and thoughts and intentions. So that's exactly why we need to talk about the karma before anything else, and it applies more than anywhere else in relationship with people.
Well, if I understand correctly, both from what you've just said and also from reading your fascinating book, karma is like an energetic imprint that we could think of almost like the Akashic records. It's attached to us. It's kind of neutral, and it becomes what we make of it. It could be positive or negative. And karma really comes into play in our lives in the relationships that we have with other people and situations. Is that a kind of a good way to think it?
Yeah. And, it's very simple to look at your life to understand what karmic pattern you have already. So let's say you have a wonderful relationship with people that feel balanced and harmonious. It means all you carry, all the memory, all the imprints at the level of the soul are positive. But if you feel like, hey, I'm in a dysfunctional family, I feel stuck, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, I'm not happy with who I am and who I bring into my life and the relationship that I have, that it means that something karmically is there. There's a negative imprint that needs to be eliminated. So it's actually, in a way, very simple. The difficult part is to really be able to identify and to go back to the source, to the moment when that particular experience was created. Let's say somebody has been abused in the childhood or in a marriage, or, somebody went through a very difficult experience that, as I said, that imprint stays as part of the memory. And sometimes imprints, as I say, go all the way deep, deep, deep attached to the cellular level. So you need to have that introspection within yourself and acknowledge where you are and be fair to yourself and ask yourself, am I where I want to be? Am I moving forward with my life, or do I feel stuck? I mean, in my career, Miriam, I've seen so many people coming to me and telling me, I'm stuck, Dr. Harra. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm just bringing the same situation over and over. I don't know how to break through. I don't know how to create a different reality. So then you need that honesty towards yourself, and you need to work on reversing karmic pattern and breaking through karmic pattern of behavior. And the good part is that karma is reversible, is something that can be healed, most likely being the main factor in relationships.
Well, from psychology and psychiatry, they do say that the truth will set you free. So is it enough to be able to recognize a karmic pattern? Obviously, if you don't recognize the karmic pattern, you can't get rid of it. But is recognizing it enough to eliminate it?
I mean, recognizing it is the first step, and even in cognitive therapy and the traditional psychology, and since we talk of psychiatry, psychology, always we used to say that everything goes back to the childhood, which means everything goes back to the beginning, and everything goes back to the beginning of your life. When you created a certain pattern of behavior, or something has happened to you, but the main thing is to identify. Let's say you have a problem of behavior, you have a compulsive disorder personality. If you're not aware of it, you will continue, to act in a certain way. and create wrong and negative patterns of behavior. The moment you're aware, that's why we used to call it cognitive therapy. The awareness is the number one factor in psychology. You're aware there's something you can do. If you're not aware, there's not too much you can do. And, our brain has skills of perception. One of perception of the brain is becoming aware of things. And it is very powerful to be aware as a first step of eliminating something that is bothering you. It's like okay, you have a bug in your system, in your body. There is a virus. If there's something, you feel it, and then there's something you can do. You check it. You identify there is a physical problem. You take some pills or you do something and you eliminate it. The same thing, translated in a metaphorical way, it can be applied when it comes to eliminating that karma that is stored there and it does you wrong.
So are all relationship issues generally due to negative karma in some form?
I mean, as we said before, there's good karma, there's negative karma, and karma starts with the relationship with yourself. So it starts with the way you treat you, the way you believe in you, the way you present yourself, and all those emotions that you have. And if, let's say, you have a missing father, or you bullied in school, or you already start in the world with less confidence, with less self-esteem.
Yeah, 2 strikes against you.
Yeah, that is also a karmic aspect of the relationship with your own self. So if you are aware that karma can be accounted for so many things at every level of your being, then you understand the complexity of the concept, and you also understand that there is a lot that you personally can do to eliminate all those energies and all those issues and work with them. And it's interesting how sometimes we stay in patterns of behavior for a very long time. But the moment we decide to eliminate a negative information that exists, let's say, between us and another person, we free, like you said, it set us free, then the problem doesn't exist. It goes away instantaneously. That's the beauty of eliminating karmic pattern that might be there for a very long time. I mean, it can be done very fast. It's almost like you delete a file in the computer of your mind.
That's a great image. Now, they do say that we have, before we incarnate in this life, we have these planning sessions to kind of set ourselves goals for what we want to experience and accomplish in this life. So, in a way, could karmic patterns be a kind of challenge, a test, a screenplay, a script for what we want to do in this life, that we have to work through the drama and then come out the other side bigger and better?
Absolutely. Well, there's a way, you put it so beautifully. There's a way that we need to acknowledge when we exit the physical world, all we take with us is karma. We leave everything else in this physical world. What we take with us that CD-ROM that includes every experience, all the memories. We take with us the file of our memories, action, intention, and the recognition, your skills, your abilities. Everything that ever happened to you is in that CD-ROM. When you come back on Earth, we used to say you come from a drop of memory, a drop of DNA that knows everything about you. And a lot of like you said, it's a screenplay that exists already in place, and you become the actor of your own life. You play the role of your life, that is already there. It's fascinating how when we bring back all kinds of experiences from prior life, we come equipped with all kinds of knowledge, as an early age. And that explains Mozart playing piano at the age of 4. I speak French at the age of 6, and I grew up between Romanian and Hungarian people. Nobody spoke French, but I did, and nobody could understand how come you learn a language that probably for an American is extremely sophisticated and complicated. But I know I do feel like the memory. I started to sing at a very early age, and again, that is another skill that somebody can be born with an extraordinary voice that comes as something you practiced before. The knowledge, the how should I say, the memory of a previous experience is already implemented there. You'll bring it back with you. So that's why it's amazing how, everything that has to do with us is creating memory every day. In every second of your life, you create individual memory, collective memory, family memory. You relate to the world around in different ways, and creating a karmic pattern of behavior that will stay with you. So you carry that like a luggage. If it's a light luggage, if your intentions and your energy is pure, and you acknowledge that you need to be a good person on earth, because that's the only thing that counts at the end of the day, not your attachment in the physical world, then you learn something. And our karmic lesson, a challenge, the biggest challenge of all times. This is the way you evolve. And you know very well, life is just a school. You come here to learn about who you are and what you need to give and what is your mission. That's what this is all about. So at the end, it's beautiful to have that light luggage and not a heavy luggage, because then you know what? You're going to feel that heaviness, and it's not a pleasant feeling.
No,
not at all.
Now, the tagline of your book is "The Truth About Karma in Relationships," and I was wondering, you talk in your book about 4 types of love relationships. That's obviously the kind of relationship that we're all looking for. Can you give us an idea, an overview of these different kinds of love?
Yes, and I tell you, this book came from my own experiences. I was married to my husband 27 years till the day he died of lung cancer. It's fascinating how I learned by being with him, and in the same time being a marriage counselor, I learned the difference between different marriages, and I realized that some people have, for instance, transitory relationship, and that I call the first group of love relationship, in which you meet somebody for a short period of time, a month, a year, 2 years, and then you have to acknowledge that relationship is just taking you to another phase, or is just transitioning you into the next relationship that is going to be a long-lasting one. The problem is that people in transitory relationship, they tend to believe that's forever, and they work very hard to make them last when they're not meant to last. So the beauty is to be able to identify, okay, this relationship is only for now. I'm not trying to get more out of it, because I will never be able to get more than a short frame of time, and I'm learning something in this experience, but it's not forever, and it won't last. So that's actually very important for you to identify, hey, I'm just in a transition. The second group of relationship are karmic relationship that come from the memory of the soul, because something, let's say, was left unresolved. If you believe in other lives, because the karma is more about the transmigration of the soul and bringing, as I said, memories and experiences into the next and into the next that need to be resolved. So karmic relationship are relationship that you have with somebody that are very intense. And they need to play out. It's like a major lesson needs to be learned. So you can meet somebody that you cannot even explain how intense and powerful that relationship is. But one day, karma gets resolved, the lesson is learned, and you wake up and that person is out of your life, and you don't feel any pain or resentment, or because the karma is played out and is resolved. And those relationships can also be transitory or can be compromised. And there we're going into the 4th type of relationship. And the 4th type of relationship are actually the majority of the relationship. Out of 100 relationships, probably 85 are compromised, in which you just settle for each other. You just agree to stay together because you share a home, you have kids together, you accept each other, and those relationships that are compromised may many times include betrayal, and you accept to be betrayed because you're not so involved emotionally, but you're involved from other points of view. So you actually want to be in that marriage, you agree to be, but a side of you is not there. You're not really loving fully that person. You just have probably respect for that person. It's a settlement. We agree, on living with each other. And then we go to and sometimes compromised relationship are maybe dysfunctional, maybe not easy to deal with, maybe just, unfair because people just have different lives. I mean, I heard so many cases of people, we are married for 30 years, but we don't really, we just meet like strangers, we don't communicate, we have nothing in common after a certain period of time. I have my life, you have your life, we don't even question each other, and in time we become strangers. It can go the other way around, but those relationships are very common, unfortunately. And there we go, the fourth type of relationship, which are the most extraordinary because they're very rare. Soulmate relationship, in which you think of you like half of the sphere and you find the other half. And when you find the other half, there's a perfect match. And then if there's a perfect match, imagine a sphere that moves, like the wheel of life, the samsara. It moves, and the world is about movement and transformation. If you're in a relationship where you're stuck, where you don't move, you might feel suffocated, miserable, unhappy, and you want out. If you're in a relationship with a soulmate, every single day there's something new, you have a smile on the face, you feel fulfilled because you found somebody who's complimenting you perfectly. It's interesting how imperfect we are. We just need somebody else to bring the other half, as I said, to complete us. So a soulmate relationship can be defined by some major elements. Actually, all those elements are in my book. And I reach all of this conclusion by living a life with a soulmate for so many years. We were inseparable. We were mentally connected. I mean, we have that telepathic message. If I was in Florida, I knew exactly what he was doing in New York, and we were calling each other in the same time. We were finishing each other's sentences. Nobody could break us apart because it was me and him against the world, and we didn't care what the world said about us. We were just so connected. So it's an extraordinary experience.
Carmen, you absolutely must tell our listeners the story of how you met Virgil.
It's just an amazing story, almost up to a point that it's even hard to believe a story like this, but it can be proven. So I was a young singer with a contract to leave Romania and come to New York, which was a big deal for somebody being born during the communist regime under Ceausescu. So everybody was like jealous, how you going to America? And my father dies 3 days prior to me leaving the country, suddenly. And almost like I felt my father wanted to set me free. My father was always like, our parents can be visionaries. They can see the future of their own kids. So I think that my father, in his vision, he knew I am meant to exit the Iron Curtain and go to another part of the world. And America resonated so amazing for people living under the communist regime. So I felt like my father wanted me to leave. So he decided to exit the world. I also believe that was his time. So at the funeral, it was 2:00, and I heard his voice. Since I had that near death at the age of 5, I always heard voices from people who are no more in the physical world. But my father's voice, while we were burying him, was, "Look behind my grave." So I was not imagining. I really heard his voice. Look behind his grave, and I'm seeing a reserved place with the name Virgil, of somebody who was not dead, but that place was bought, for somebody with the name of Virgil. And I had my father saying, "You're going to New York, you are going to meet your husband with this name." So I didn't say anything because I thought that I can't share something like this. People are going to think this is crazy. So next day in the morning, I left my country, came to New York, and 2 days later I had my first concert. And there comes this wonderful, handsome, attractive young man. He comes to me and he said, "I'm looking for a singer. My name is Virgil." And I tell you, Miriam, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't. Even now, after all these years, I have chills as I'm telling this story. I will always have chills because it's such a powerful story. So from that second, me and that man, we could never separate. We were looking in each other's life and said, I knew I found my husband, which I married him weeks later. Well, how crazy is that? Who's going to marry weeks later? You know, everybody would say, well, I need 3 years to know the man. I'm going to go and date him, and then I'm going to think about it, and then I'm going to have issues with commitment and whatever, you know. So bottom line is, I said that this is it for me, you know, and I took the message at that funeral coming from my dad, like, Carmen, this is going to be. So 27 years later, my husband developed lung cancer, and he dies very young at the age of 57, which is the tragedy of my life. I still cannot heal, because when you meet a soulmate, you can never heal after that. I mean, I don't care what people think, or you find somebody else. Nobody else will be your soulmate. Rarely you can meet another soulmate. That's kind of rare. As much as a lot of people go through life, they never meet their soulmate. So after my husband's passing, I paid a visit to my father's grave, and I realized that exactly the time my husband died, the man who had the reserved place behind my father's grave, and all of this is documented, you know, because it's like I have tapes of this for everybody who said, I can't believe a story like this is too much. You know, and that man died exactly the same time my husband died. And then I made my own conclusion. Probably I got a double message at that funeral. Not only I'm going to meet my husband with the name Virgil, but my husband will also die. The day will come when he will. So, you know what? That was... And now, you know, you always look back in retrospect in your life, and you're amazed how things were programmed to happen in a certain way. But like the awareness is not there. Sometimes your brain can break the linear time, can break chronology, and have a vision of what's going to happen to you 5 to 10 years later. But it's almost like we're not supposed to know too much in order to be able to navigate through life and learn the lesson we're meant to learn.
Yeah, yeah. Now, you have all of our listeners officially very jealous, because the kind of relationship that you have is something that everybody that you had and have with your husband is something that everybody wants.
I was so madly in love, Miriam. I was so madly in love. I don't think anybody can imagine. I would have given everything for this man. I adore this man more than my life. You know, it's just I don't have words to express how deep and powerful. And that was because it was that soulmate relationship. Yeah. And I tell you, I did that once in two people, Marian, a 30-year-old and a 62-year-old woman who came to me, and I identified, because they have problems. Nobody agreed to that relationship. Everyone said, are you involved with your grandma? What's wrong with you? For referring to him. And to her, how can you be with a man that young? Those two people, they live upstate New York, and nobody can understand their relationship. They isolated themselves from the world because nobody's going to get it. They are just soulmates against the fact that there's an age difference, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Is there a soulmate out there for everyone?
Theoretically, if you think that we all have the other half, yes. The hard part is bringing things to coincide in time. The coinciding situation in time, like make sure you get your soulmate right now in this lifetime and not into the next, you know. That's the hard part. Finding him in that particular moment in time is what's difficult, you know. And that's why if you look at the world today, out of the 100 marriages, probably 50% are compromised, 20% or even more are going to end up in a divorce, 10% are just transition, and very rarely, like a percentage of probably 5, 7, 8% who really found each other.
Well, yeah, it's a little discouraging.
The statistics are not great. I mean, the statistics prove that of 100 couples, you know, 50 will actually end up in a divorce. The statistics of divorce are still very high.
Yeah. Of course, the good news is what you said earlier, which is you shouldn't beat yourself up about it because you may have been intended to be in a transitional relationship. But what if you're in a bad relationship?
Hope. Miriam, you have hope. I mean, when it comes to finding the true love, I had a client the other day. I have to share this with your listeners. And she is 48. She told me, Carmen, I'm not giving up on meeting my soulmate. As long as I'm on earth, I still dream and hope and pray and manifest and ask for him to come into my life, and I will never give up. And I was so moved by the statement. I so love that woman because she said to her, I'm not going to settle just for the sake of being with somebody. I will look for the right person. So that was beautiful.
You really have to have a good, strong sense of yourself and your own identity to be good in a relationship, don't you think?
It all comes with this amazing art of self-love. Because if you don't love you, if you don't appreciate yourself, if you don't know your self-worth, if you're not acting at your highest skills and abilities, if you're not aware of who you are, which, again, going back to the law of awareness, you have to be perfectly aware of who you are to understand who you need to bring into your life. And a lot of people are delusional when it comes to what they want, and they want the wrong type of things. People marry other people's family. They marry their bank accounts. They marry because they're afraid to be alone. They marry for companionship, for friendship. They intentionally compromise because they don't know any better. So it's a reality. I don't think it's a sad or a good reality. It's just a reality. And I think, what I want people to learn from this book is that they can do better. They can master that action, which is called their karma, and they can be on the top of their own life and becoming kings and queens of, because that's what we want. You think like it's superb to be a king in your own identity, to reach the highest level. And I feel like we all can be, and we all need to know. That's why this book is a manual. It teaches you. Pay attention to what kind of a relationship are you in. So if you know the relationship you are in, should I stay? Should I go? Is he the one for me or it's not? So it's a work. It's a work in progress. Exactly like you choose a house that is best for you, or you choose the best career and you don't settle for a meager job. The same thing. Don't settle in a relationship without knowing who your partner is and what are your expectations coming from who are you really in your life, and what do you want to be.
Now, we've been talking about the love relationships, but does your karma affect all of your relationships?
Sure.
With workers and the world?
Oh, absolutely. Relationship intertwine. And the most interesting thing is that relationships with other people interfere in love relationships. Like the relationship with your father can actually interfere with the relationship with your husband, or the relationship with your child can interfere with the relationship with your sister. There's some kind of a interference, a constant melt between all forms of relationship. That's so amazing, the complexity of relationship. The word relationship comes from the Latin word relatio, which means to heal, to restore, to bring together. So to create that unity, that oneness, then that that identity, that will that I'm talking about. And we completely lost with our relationship in this world. But the number one thing is, yes, they do interfere with each other. So make sure you don't allow sometime outside influences from other people into your love life, or don't let other people decide for you. So a relationship is a way for you to grow and make yourself decide for you and understand who you really are. Because people come in our life to mirror what we're missing, to mirror our own weaknesses, to mirror our own problems. So when they come into life, don't judge them, don't blame them. Let them be and look inward within you. What am I really seeing here? What is this reflection of me?
Very, very profound. And sometimes we enter into a relationship that becomes really more of an obsession. What does that mean karmically?
Oh, yes. Those are very common. People who become obsessed with the people they can never be with. And the more they acknowledge they can never be, the more obsessed they become. It's like a vicious cycle. And you need to do a lot of work to get rid of that obsession, because that's a terrible way to block yourself karmically. Because even if and I've seen this in my career a million times, you know, women who are obsessed with a man who's married to another woman, you know, even if they know that's a wrong karma to try to get somebody else's husband, even if they know that man will never look at you because he doesn't even acknowledge you, it's only you acknowledging him, they continue on that pattern of obsession. And I'm receiving emails all the time from women asking me, Dr. Harra, what should I do to get rid of my obsession? What should I do to be able to move on? Because I'm kind of stuck for years thinking of a person that in the real world will never be with me. Why am I, you know, attached to somebody? There are a lot of explanations, sometimes karmic past lives or things that can come from somewhere, or an obsession is also a reflection of your inability, you know, to stand up for yourself, to find your truth, to find your right person in your life. Obsession is a damage. You've been damaged sometime in your life, you know. When you're obsessed, you have to go back to the root of the family relationship and see why you created that pattern of obsession. It might go back to your father. It might go back to your relationship with your mother. And talking about mother-daughter relationship, you know, I co-authored this book because I said there's no better and more powerful relationship other than mother and child. You know, those are very, very intense, very strong. They are foundation of love, you know. The child comes from your love. And, you know, you see constantly a battle between mother and children, which shouldn't be this way, but it exists in the real world.
Yes, I look back on my own kids and kind of cringe, because if I knew then what I know now, I would have raised them differently. But I guess you can't go.
You can't think this way. No. No, you cannot.
So if you're in a bad relationship, how can you kind of extract yourself? How can you detoxify yourself from a relationship that's become dysfunctional?
I mean, first of all, your first thing that you want to do, you want to make sure you declutter a relationship. So you give a relationship a chance. So if you got involved, you own it to yourself to try to give it a chance and see whether you can make it work. But if you see that whatever you're trying to do is not working, then you have to be honest with yourself, and then you have to walk away from this. But you have to walk away from it by not allowing any karmic residues in your life. Like when I say that, I'm referring many times to the people in Hollywood. The people in Hollywood, you see the marriage, divorce, marriage, divorce, marriage, divorce. And you question why? Because they never finish one thing and they move into the next. And if you divorce once and you never fix your problems in that divorce, and you just walk away without learning the lesson, you will marry again and divorce again and divorce again. So the cycle, this is what I call karma being repetition over and over. And unless you work on it, acknowledge it, you make peace with this, you see what you did wrong, and you see what you don't want to bring back into your life, you will keep on bringing it. So, when people go through such kind of relationship that end up in separation and headaches and breaks up, they have to do a lot of work to finalize karmic relationships, so they're not going to keep on repeating.
And the other thing is that when you bear anger or malice towards your this partner, towards the hurt, it really erodes your own soul. You speak a lot in your book about forgiveness. What is the secret to forgiveness, and how do you really forgive somebody who has hurt you so deeply?
Well, that's amazing. Forgiveness is, and again, going to the etymology of the word, it comes from the Greek word to detach. So when you forgive, you remove yourself. The only way is to genuinely forgive that person. If you keep on holding on to that anger and resentment because you think he did something to you, but my opinion is nobody does anything to us. We do it to ourselves. in the scheme of things, as crazy as this statement may seem, I really believe that we create situations for ourselves. As much as we want to blame other people and the world around, the answer is within you and not in the outside world. So coming back to how you can forgive, you forgive by not having any resentment towards that person. Like you rewire the brain. The brain can be reprogrammed. You reprogram your thoughts. That's a mental activity. Exactly like you learn how to go at the gym and exercise the muscle, you exercise the neurons in the brain. Because the neurons, they create clusters of neurons and they create a behavior pattern. So if you acknowledge that, you repeatedly you do and say the same thing to yourself till you're capable to fully release that person. So you will feel like, I forgive, so the person is completely out of my life and I have no anger, no resentment, no negativity, no matter what he did to me. Then it's almost magic. The next second, you will be able to bring somebody else. Now, forgiveness works hand in hand with the wisdom of life, the wisdom and the acceptance of the things that you can never change, the things that you are meant to go through. So that's why we used to say sometimes that erasing negative karma, because holding on to negative emotion creates a negative karma towards your own self. And so if you eliminate and forgive and are wise about this, then wisdom and forgiveness erases any karmic patterns of behavior and sets you free, and you can finally free yourself from the will of the flesh. Like we used to say, you want to free yourself from, coming back in a low level of consciousness. This is the way to do it.
Freeing yourself is so important because we know the dangers of keeping emotions inside. They really literally as well as figuratively eat you from the inside. I think a lot of cancers and things have been traced to pent-up negativity and emotions. So what can you do to release these feelings?
Well, you said you made a wonderful point. So when you have negative feelings, the body releases all kinds of negative chemicals, hormones, creates the chemistry of the brain. The hormones in the brain get out of balance, and then you become depressed, you become compulsive, you become bipolar, and indirectly, a part of you is in the war with the rest of you. So you're not at peace with your own self, and that develops even physical disorders like autoimmune disorders, which are like skyrocketing. It's like the young generation having all kinds of diseases like lupus, Hashimoto disease. It's an epidemic. Cancer, in the end of the day, is an autoimmune disorder. I always said many times in my interviews that, the world globally, at the collective mind of the planet, seems to have a cancer because we fight against each other. So only the moment when we will stop the fight, the cancer will be eradicated. Otherwise, there's no cure for cancer because the cancer is something that is more at the level of the thoughts than it is in the physical body. But the negativity of the thoughts, will calcify. So karma calcifies in the physical reality, in the physical body. And that's why somebody who went through a terrible divorce 3 years later finds out that she has breast cancer or she has ovarian cancer was just a reflection of all those emotion and anger and fights within herself that she had to go through the divorce. So in other words, pay attention to those emotions if you go to a rocky time, and it's better to let go of a marriage than getting a disease like this. And that applies to the world, to everything that's happening in the world. I'm just a firm believer that the day will come when we will elevate consciousness to a level in which we will stop the war against each other, and then we're not going to have diseases like cancer, autoimmune disorder, because they are just a reflection of our inner problem at the collective mind of the planet.
From your lips to God's ear, Carmen, what can I say?
Yeah, I just pray for that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, tell us where we can hear more about. Are you giving workshops and things like that, or do you give readings?
I'm doing
How do
a lot
people
of
get in touch with you?
radio shows. The people get rid of me by going to my site, carmenharra.com, and they can purchase my book by clicking on the book, and it takes them to Amazon, to Barnes and Nobles, or people can send me an email at carmenharra@AOL, and they can listen to me every Sunday at 10 p.m. on WABC radio. I'm available for consultation if people need me. I'm here to serve, exactly like you. We are here to serve the world and do as much good as we can.
Well, I would like to compliment you on the book. There's a lot of wisdom in it, and it's very interesting to read the interplay between you and your daughter, kind of giving two sides of the coin, two observations. It's very, very sweet. So I think it'll appeal to all generations. I particularly like the tools that you give. Can you leave our listeners with a few tips of your choosing for how to deal with karma, relationships, whatever? I mean,
first of all, as I said before, the number one tool is to reach inner peace, to be in a state of harmony and content, and to get there is easier than you think. Just go and introspect and write the story of your life, and see in which way you play. And if there's something like one of the character being even yourself that you don't like, try to change the story of your life. I think that's key. Creating a new reality you create, because we live in a field of so many possibilities. And is everything written in stone? No. You just have a screenplay that you can modify. You are the architect of your life. You make the life the way is good for you. And don't allow anybody to think for you. Don't allow any interference. That's the only way you really grow up. You accept the wisdom from other people. Love everybody unconditionally, because love is, the most powerful force, and you can't stop it. You cannot control it. And if you use your love, your genuine love, in relationship, then I tell you, you will have a life of celebration. And I think that mastering your karma means celebrating your life. And life is such a precious gift. And everybody says it. You just have to feel it, and you have to live it. And live the life you love and love the life you live. That should be everybody's statement. And I think that this book is all about teaching people how to sit on the top of the pyramid and said, hallelujah, this is beautiful. I am happy, and I will never allow anybody to take that away from me.
Hear, hear. My goodness, we've been speaking for the last almost hour. That has gone so incredibly quickly with Carmen Harra, Ph.D., and she is the author, along with her daughter, Alexandra, of The Karma Queen's Guide to Relationships. Karma, thank you for being with us. Karma and Carmen are so close to each other.
Yeah, everybody is calling me Karma because my name Carmen is very similar.
And they have karma on the brain by the time they finish talking to you. So thank you for being with us today,
Oh,
Carmen.
I love you, Miriam. You're such a heart of gold and an amazing, inspirational woman. I am so grateful for the chance and the opportunity you gave me to talk about my book.
Oh, thank you. And if you want to download this or any of our shows, go to our website, New Consciousness Review at ncreview.com, where you can leaf through our content-packed multimedia magazine and browse our reviews and podcast archive. Well, that's our show for today. Thank you for joining us. I'm Miriam Knight for a New Consciousness Review. Be good to yourself, do good in the world, and remember you're made of stardust, so shine brightly.